Good morning, everyone. Today we have Ryan Mendonca with us on the call. With over 5 years of experience in the legal industry, working as an in-house counsel at multiple firms, Ryan also manages a LinkedIn networking group called Dubai Legal Professionals, which is designed for legal professionals and law students from various backgrounds that work or study in the UAE. This interview aims to provide our viewers with an insight into Ryan's career, followed by a deep dive into the legal profession and how it's been affected by COVID, how to develop connections, and more. Thank you for sitting down with us today, Ryan. For everyone watching, to learn more about him, please have a look at his LinkedIn profile, which is displayed on your screens now. And now I'll hand it off to my colleagues, Bafi and Khadija, so we can get started with the interview.
Welcome, Ryan. So let's start from the very beginning, which is your education. So tell us, why did you choose to study law?
Cool. Thank you, Bafi, for that interesting question. So, my earliest memory of being asked why would I want to study law was back in law school during the entrance interview. And for the life of me, I can't seem to recall what I said back then. But what I know now is it's because I realized that law is one of the most important elements. It's intertwined into the fabric of everything, from birth to work to marriage to everything, owning a house. It's all intertwined with law, and I felt learning the law would help me in my life and provide an advantage to not only myself but my career and the family that I have as well.
That's lovely. So now, speaking of law school, how was your law school experience like? Why did you pursue law in India particularly?
Sure. So given my background, given being Indian, I felt there would be no better place for me to study law, and law school was great for me. I enjoyed my law school days. It was amazing fun, and the law school that I went to had great infrastructure. It gave me a lot of opportunities in terms of co-curricular and extracurricular activities. I wanted to study law back then, and back then when I did plan on studying law, you couldn't really do it in Dubai. And I figured it would be the best opportunity for me to go and get that independent living experience by being in India. And I wanted to be a lawyer, and the fire integrated course that India offered, which was with the BBA LLB combination, it gave me the best opportunity to start my career as a business and corporate lawyer. So I studied in Christ University, and it was one of the few universities back then that allowed this combination of BBA and LLB. Most of the universities, especially the government ones or the national accredited ones, didn't have this option back then, or this combination back then. And also it was kind of tradition. My brother went to Christ University, my sister went to Christ University, so it was kind of family tradition for us to study there. So that's my answer for that.
That's nice. So were you heavily involved in extracurricular activities, and what would you say particularly was your favorite one?
Yeah, so I dabbled into everything from Model UN to moot court to debating. I was even on the swim team, did a little bit of theater and dance. So basically did everything I could get my hands on. I helped volunteer on some organization committees of moot courts and debates. In short, I left very few stones unturned when it came to exploring extracurricular activities. It was very difficult for me to pick up one and then say that was the one that I really excelled at, because I really did a lot of them, and there was no one that really spoke to me. But looking back, I probably enjoyed swimming the most, and even to this day, getting back in the pool, especially after a year after COVID, it's been amazing, and I've always loved the feeling of being in the water and swimming competitively.
That's amazing. Wow. So that's all about education. Now I will hand it over to Khadija.
Thank you, Wafia. So moving on, if you could quantify, would you say that your grades in law school contributed heavily to your position in the legal sector right now, or would you say other factors matter equally?
So to quantify it would be a little bit difficult, but I can confidently say that my grades did not contribute much to my law career. It really hasn't brought me to where I am and molded me into the lawyer that I am this day. But yes, academics is very important, and so is interning, right? And I did internships in India, in UAE, and in USA, and took part in multiple activities. And finally, I knew what field of law that I wanted to get into. Now, I understand that a lot of law students would not necessarily know the field of law or type of profession that they would like to get into and career path that they would want to take. But given the fact that I knew I wanted to study intellectual property, that led me to land a great job straight out of law school at an IP boutique law firm that had huge exposure, and I got a great amount of experience. But even for those that don't know the field of law that they would like to get into, I would really advocate the fact that they should go ahead and try and taste and feel different fields of law. And over the time of their course of 5 years, 4 years, whatever that may be, they would most likely get a great job and be able to enter the career of the legal profession.
Brilliant. So how holistic would you say the admissions process is to law schools and then the life beyond law school?
So with regards to this question, I don't think that the admission process and how would I put it, the process of all that law school has to offer and what they teach you is really in the books, right? It's more of how you play it. It's more of how do you take it. Do you go out and do internships? Do you go out, network with your friends, with colleagues, with people in the university in general, right? Do you build relationships? That's more of what I feel law schools will really offer, right? Because that networking, that camaraderie and everything that you can get in law school, that's invaluable, right? Like even to this day, I pick up the phone and I want to call some of my law school buddies from like 5 years ago. Maybe I haven't been in touch, but the moment I want to call them or reach out to them, boom, they're there for me, right? So that's the type of connection and experience I would say would be really important for people that are in law school.
Brilliant, thank you. So I'll pass it on to Wafia and she'll ask you questions regarding career.
Cool.
So moving on, let's talk about the next chapter, as Khatija mentioned, that is your career. So you've mentioned that you've done work in multiple jurisdictions like India, UAE, Africa, Australia, and USA as an in-house lawyer. So for like various company projects, how would you describe your experience of working as an in-house lawyer would be?
So, I mean, to be honest, working as an in-house lawyer is amazing for me, given the fact that working on different projects in different jurisdictions on cross-border transactions, it really provides you a much wider scope as opposed to being in let's say a law firm where you might be jurisdiction specific to maybe your state or your country, right? Of course, there are law firms that do provide you cross-border transactions and experience in various types of situations where you're working with colleagues or other law firms in other countries, right? But for the most part, that's not really there. But I feel with in-house counsel's work, especially with a company that works in different jurisdictions, has a presence in a lot of countries, it really provides you that exposure to other nuances that you would not ordinarily get in a law firm, especially one that's locally based.
So you have an experience of working in 5 different areas of law in the past 5 years. What was that like?
So, I mean, I would say that was a complete roller coaster ride in every sense of the word, right? To me, it had its ups and downs. It was very fast paced, super exciting, super fun. But it had its slow points as well, right? And that's something that I would is worth mentioning, because given the phase that people have had recently, a lot of people have had a dip in their career. A lot of people have seen certain low points, whether it be academically, whether it may be career-wise, right? But I would say that that's something that gives each one of us, and it gave me especially, a broad range of expertise in a very short period of time, right? And that's something that I would not trade for anything at all. And I consider myself fortunate to have had that opportunity to go through different fields of law, go through different types of organizations, small and big startups, corporates and conglomerates that worked and had a presence globally. And I just feel that it's great for everybody to be able to have that type of exposure. Of course, there are people that would like to specialize and go on a deep dive into a specific topic. And by all means, right, that's their choice, and it's a great opportunity to do that as well. But for me, wearing different hats, dabbling into different things is generally my nature, so I enjoyed that.
That's lovely. So finally, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you faced while practicing in different areas of law and different functions? How did you overcome those challenges?
Okay, so I mean, I would say that working in different fields of law and working in different jurisdictions is not very difficult. When we're talking about working on a specific project in a new jurisdiction or a cross-border transaction, you would need to do a substantial amount of research. Like, don't get me wrong, you really need to go into reading the legislation that's relevant for that country. You really need to look at the various types of ways that it's applied in that country and how it can affect your client or the company that you're working for. And last but not least, you also need to consult local counsel, right? Local professionals that's able to give you the sound legal advice that they know from doing and carrying out transactions and activities on a day-to-day basis within their country, right? So it's fairly doable, especially when you're determined and like you have a proper goal and you understand what it is that you're doing. However, restarting your career or moving to a new jurisdiction is completely different and it's super difficult. I know that a lot of people have done that. People who've gotten law degrees in one country have gotten requalified and gotten ahead of dual qualifications, triple qualifications, and people go out and do it, and they're stellar, and they're way ahead of a lot of people that have one qualification, right, or work in one jurisdiction. But to each their own, and it does provide various aspects of opportunities if you'd like to go to new jurisdictions and requalify.
Amazing. So moving on, what made you create the Dubai Legal Professionals Group?
So for me, the Dubai Legal Professionals Group was kind of like a very personal project. It started out just to make people that are in the legal network, in the legal community in Dubai, to become one, right? And this was to bring people that were super experienced and people who were young and relatively inexperienced, right? Together on the same platform. And back then, when I'd come to UAE and was working back there in 2017, something like that, I was looking for a platform like this, right? And it did not exist. So I felt that I needed to go out and create it. And that's what I did, right? Its primary purpose is to bring law students and lawyers and young lawyers and experienced lawyers all together on the same platform, connecting, interning, networking, and helping each other build their law career.
It's amazing what you're doing. So those are all the questions from this segment. I'll pass it on to Khatija so we can move on.
Thank you, Wafia. Now, looking at all your accomplishments and experiences, what is something you have accomplished you never imagined you would have?
So one of the things that I really didn't think I would have accomplished was setting up the DLP group, the group on LinkedIn, and having it reach where it has today, right? Like, given the fact that it has 1,500 members now, people in various parts of the world, even though they started out as being lawyers in Dubai and people who were working there or had some point of interest there, they're now all over, right? And given the fact that people have moved on, it's just allowed the platform, allowed the community to build and grow to where it is today. And I feel really happy about that, and really excited to see where it's going to go in the next 3 to 5 years. And I'm happy to be there for that journey. And it's something that I feel super proud of.
That's amazing. So let's go into the more broader aspect of this interview. Given that law is very heavily dependent on the connections you have, not everyone may have the exposure to many legal professionals and legal opportunities. So first of all, in your experience, would you say there is some experiences that matter more than others? And should students still work even if it isn't directly related to law?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even if it's not related to law, take the opportunity and run with it, literally. Like, I feel it's imperative that people in the legal profession, especially the ones that are studying, right, they find ways and means to make things happen. They don't sit and while away and crib and complain, right? They go out and get things done. And it may not be, it may not necessarily be with super experienced lawyers, or it may not necessarily be with like an amazing stellar law firm or something like that, right? But it may be different types of opportunities. Like, for instance, what Justin and Wafia, they're both law students, and Justin, you started this wonderful initiative called Lawywer-ed, and Wafia introduced us, the DLP group, to this. And it's one thing leads to another, and who knows what other opportunities may come from this, right? So it's just kind of what I wanted to say is it's important to understand the opportunities that are there out there and recognize that and go out and get something for yourself and make something out of it, right? Because there are a lot of opportunities no matter where we look, whether in law or outside. And there are so many things that we need to try to really realize that makes sense. And it's good to have, right? It's good to always take the initiative and get things done.
So in that case, would you say certain experiences matter more than others?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Brilliant. So how would you say COVID has impacted your career and the industry at large?
For me, it's been an eye-opener, to say the least. It's been very beneficial for me in terms of physical and mental health and fitness. I've been able to see things in a very, very different perspective. And more importantly, I feel privileged to have been safe and healthy on the inside at home with my family during the pandemic. I mean, it has helped me to reassess and prioritize things that are important in life. And I think that's one of the main things that, one of the very positive things that happened with COVID, not only for me, but for a lot of people, right? It gave you that sense or freedom to check out, to kind of take a step back and reanalyze and look at what things are and how things are as it is, right? Coming to the legal industry, I feel that the legal industry at large has been heavily impacted, as with the rest of the world economy. But the legal sector is relatively strong and resilient industry. And given the fact that when you go to see whether things are going bad or good, you need to have lawyers, right? Sometimes all the more when things are going worse, right? So, but by that very definition, given the fact that lawyers are needed in ups and downs, in good times and bad, right? I feel that the legal sector was rather quick to adapt, to the need of the hour. And within a 3 or 4 month period, right, we saw a lot of countries having their courts resume, their legal processes all go virtually, and at a spur of a moment, right? We had people or lawyers in various Zoom courts having like bloopers and whatnot. So, it has its plus and negatives, but I think on the whole, it really gave a good shake to the legal industry, but the legal industry came back stronger, right?
Brilliant. Thank you, Ryan. So I'll pass it on to Jishan now.
Thank you, Khadija. So, Ryan, it's been very informative, everything you've said so far. I just have one more question left. And surprisingly, it starts like this. With our interview coming to a close, what advice would you give to every lawyer? Every future lawyer?
Right. So for law students, right, that are going to be lawyers, I would say do everything that interests you. Make your own opportunities. Build strong relationships in law school with professionals, with your peers, whomever you may able to be connected with, right? These are all the important pieces of information and advice that I would give to law students.
Awesome. Thank you. Khadija.
Brilliant. So this interview has come to an end, and I would like to thank Ryan for taking the time out from his busy schedule and to answer our questions. I have definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure your advice will take a lot of these students a very long way. I would also like to thank Jishan and Wafia for helping out with this interview, and I hope everybody has a lovely day.